Hello, we're back for another video on the ARK. We're doing a 40 beginners and advanced tips and tricks video, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. Starting off at number 1 and giving us a great introduction into playing ARK. This is ARK, you're gonna die a lot, and there's always something else you could have done differently to survive. That's why you gotta see it as a learning experience and not get annoyed, because ARK can be quite annoying when starting out. This is a thing I do all the time, and it's definitely a good habit I picked up, as it works well for feeding troughs and refrigerators. It doesn't take a lot of time to do, and it will save you a lot of time if you never did this at all. Of course, anything in a refrigerator takes a long time to store. However, this comes in very handy for the more valuable consumables like sweet vegetable cakes, for example. As you can see, these are all in 6 or 7 stacks. Take all out of the refrigerator's inventory and transfer them all straight back in. Doing this restacks them into their maximum stack, therefore extending the spoil timer. And of course, if they were all at 1 stack, they would all spoil at the same time and you wouldn't have any vegetable cakes in your fridge. Hotbar Essentials and getting familiar with the slots that you use for them. This is my hotbar layout for PvE, so the 4 slots on the left are the easiest to access via a controller if you're playing on console, which for me is always Bolas, parachutes, a shotgun, or any kind of weapon that can kill creatures quickly, and your healing items. After that, I keep the crossbow with grappling hooks, sword and pike together, as they're quite useful but you don't use them as much. Spyglass, always something you need to have quick access to. The last 2 slots on my far right, the cooked meat and the crossbow with tranks, I always change them out for stuff like I might need in certain situations. There's no rush to quickly drink water, if you ask me, so I'll just have a canteen in my normal inventory rather than on the hotbar. You want to get into the habit of being familiar with what items you always put in the same slot. When you're in those bad situations, you'll get used to which keys to press for what weapons and items you need in that certain situation, so it's best to get into the habit of keeping the same hotbar layout on any map that you play. Dismounting a tame creature with a poor turning radius can enable it to turn round and fight the correct direction, if set to neutral of course. This can prevent your creature from taking a lot of damage if certain aggressive creatures are attacking it from behind, and it will turn the tables on a battle pretty quickly. Just be careful when doing so, as it can potentially put you at risk. But let's be honest, we all care about our dinos more than we care about ourselves on this game. Only use engram points to unlock the engrams that you need when starting out on ARK. There are a lot of engrams, however there aren't enough engram points to unlock the majority of items, as you will need these points for later, and of course it's a long road until you get to the point where you can craft your Mindwipe tonic to respec all your points, so it is important to do this. Don't make the same mistake I did when I started out on the ARK. Explorer notes are collectible items scattered across various ARK maps. Once picked up, they will give you double XP for a duration of time. This duration will stack with the more you pick up. These are great for starting on a new map, as you can level up ridiculously quickly, and of course it's a great way to keep up with the ARK story, as you can follow the narration that comes with all Explorer notes. On the Genesis simulation, they come in forms of glitches, and even though the Fjordur map is not an ARK story map, you can pick up runes which will give the same effect. Of course, you manage to collect all these Explorer notes, you will gain an additional 10 levels on your survivor. Be sure to not die once picking them up, because you will lose the XP boost, and if possible pick them up by walking your tame creatures over the top of them, and your tame creature will also get the double XP bonus. Weight reductions on creatures. This is a common thing in ARK. There are a lot of creatures that have weight reductions for certain resources, and I'm sure the majority of ARK players tend to use the Argy and Anki combo to farm pretty much any of the rare resources in the game. The Anki has 85% weight reduction for metal in its inventory, whereas the Argentavis has weight reduction for a variety of other resources. So if you're out gathering metal, crystal, obsidian, any of that, you'll see from this clip we cannot move with the Anklo when we pick him up. However, if you take all the stone and crystal out of the Anki and transfer it into the Argy, you will see the Argentavis has 50% weight reduction on all these resources, and of course all these are very heavy. But if you're like me, greedy and want everything including stone, you want to maximize the weight capacity on your creatures and what they can carry. So as you can see, we've taken all the stone, crystal and obsidian out of the Anki, chucked it on the Argentavis, and we can move freely again. and we haven't lost any of the resources that we've gathered. Popcorning items to exceed the weight limit on your survivor. This consists of manually dropping a load of items out of yours or a creature's inventory so they turn into packages on the floor. Good examples of this are, you just finished a metal run, you got all your metal on your anklo, he's overweight, he can't move. If you just sit on the anklo, drop all the items out of his inventory, dismounting, pick up all packages with the pick up all button, and then transfer it all into your forge. Utilising the magnifying glass when knocking out a creature that you want to tame. The magnifying glass is a great taming aid, as you can see how much torpor the creature has gained. We've all been there, we've shot the creature just as it gets knocked out and it ruins the taming effectiveness. But if you have a magnifying glass, this is easily avoidable, and this will move us on nicely to the next tip, as we've just knocked out our Argentavis. This is how to use the Taming Interface. You want to be in your inventory, and at the top of the screen you have all your tabs, and you're looking for the Taming List, which is the icon that looks like this, and this will give you a list of all the creatures you are taming. It will tell you their health levels, their food levels, taming effectiveness, taming percentage, and how much torpor they have. You can track all of them, or you can select one to track. It will tell you the distance, and it makes tracking your creature extremely easy. So there's no chance you're ever going to forget where you knocked out your creatures. Unridden creatures do not take full damage. This can be useful for navigating certain situations where the easiest way is just to drop off the mountain. All you have to do is just dismount before you hit the floor, and your creature will not take any full damage. If you're a bit scared about risking that due to ARK being so laggy, you can dismount at the top and just use a parachute to fall to the bottom. Using high ground to defeat aggressive creatures. There are a lot of creatures in game that have good knockback attacks. The Trike is a good example of this. It is one of those creatures you always tame at the start of a game, but it's also a very good fighter and can take on creatures bigger than itself. If you have the high ground, you can knock them back without the Rex barely hitting your Trike. Bolas are one of the most important basic tools in the game. They can be used to immobilize targets, human players for about 20 seconds, and small to medium dinosaurs for about 30 seconds. You can use them when getting jumped, which can give you time to escape, or you can use them to kill those threats, and what they're mostly useful for is probably taming, and it makes taming a lot of those early game creatures much easier to tame. A Trike is your early game best friend. Every time I start out in the ARK, I always make it my mission to tame up a Trike before any of the other creatures. The saddle can be unlocked at level 16. It can be crafted in your survivor's inventory. The Trike is an excellent berry gatherer, which is vital for starting out on ARK, easy narca berries, which of course is very important for taming any creatures. When you're starting out, that's all you want to do is tame creatures, and I find the Trike is the most important for that. They're not that difficult to tame. It's a herbivore. Berries are easy to gather when you don't have any creatures. They have a very slow torpor drain, so there's no problems keeping them asleep. It's also great at fighting and can kill a wide variety of aggressive creatures with ease. Stimberries are great to have on your hotbar for early to mid game, as there's plenty of times where you're snuck up on in the wild by one of those horrible scorpions, and having Stimberries equipped will give you enough time to either fight them or give you time to run away and not get yourself knocked out, as Stimberries do reduce torpor inflicting effects. Utilising Cryopods and the Cryofridge as soon as you get high enough level to unlock them. The Cryopod is an item that you can store your creatures in. It's basically like a Pokeball from Pokemon. You go up next to your creatures with the Cryopod in hand and press the attack button to suck them into the Cryopod. You can unlock the Cryopod at level 51, and you can unlock the Cryofridge at level 88, which of course is endgame stuff. They can only be crafted in a tech replicator, supply crate, or a tribute terminal. Creatures stored in Cryopods do not count towards the tame limit, will not consume any food, will gain 5% passive XP. This is amazing because they do gain it while you're offline. However, if they were just out in your base, they can only gain passive XP when you're in render distance. In this video, I had this Ferrazino in the fridge for about a month or 2 months, and it gained 60 levels just from sitting in the fridge. They do have spoil timers, of course. A Cryopod in your inventory will last for 30 days, and if you don't have access to a Cryofridge, will spoil in 60 days in your refrigerator. The only way you can recharge them is via a Cryofridge, which if powered will give them a lifelong spoil timer. They're extremely good for transferring any of your creatures across and around the map. You can throw them in and out of caves, where if the entrance is too small, you can't walk your creature in, you can just throw it out inside. When your creatures are inside Cryopods, you can see their stats, their color regions, and their mutations. and everything else you need to know. Just be sure whenever you're throwing out your creatures that you aren't throwing out too many at a time. If you do throw them out when you have the cooldown, which is shown at the bottom right of your screen, they will be thrown out unconscious and have cryo sickness, which sometimes can take a while for them to wake up, and they are prone to taking a lot more damage when they are asleep like this. And to also make sure not to let your cryopods spoil when you have a creature inside it, because it will die. Using traps as much as possible. There are times where I just can't be bothered to make a trap and I regret doing it because my creature that I've tried to knock out just runs off and you can't find it. There are many different varieties of traps, all for different purposes. All you need to do is just be the bait, and it saves a lot of hassle. Not throwing away sport meat, charcoal, or creature trophies. This is a common thing I used to do when I first started playing ARK. I know a lot of tribe mates have done it too. Sport meat is extremely important for early game, and you always need it to make narcotics. Charcoal is used for making gunpowder, which is for making bullets. Even if you don't think you need it now, you will need it later on, and you'll need a lot of it. Creature trophies. These are trophies that will be dropped by a number of creatures. You will need them at the end game when you're ready to do boss fights, so do not chuck any of those items away. The compound bow, although it is a beautiful looking weapon, it's only good with metal arrows. As you can see, we have a primitive crossbow and primitive compound bow, and test subject 135 Rex. Damage numbers turned on, of course. Crossbow does 95 damage, and the compound bow does 74. Next we'll try the trank arrows. 35 damage with the crossbow, 27 with the compound bow. You can't equip metal arrows to a crossbow, and the metal arrows do 245 damage to the Rex's face with the compound bow. So don't waste any other arrows other than metal arrows, as they cost a bomb to repair and it's not really worth it at all. Using beds and sleeping bags all the time. As soon as you find a base location and plan on building, the first thing you want to do is place down a bed, as it will give you a constant respawn point in case you die. Sleeping bags are also very important. Sleeping bags act as a temporary respawn point and can only be used once. I definitely recommend placing sleeping bags down frequently when starting out, exploring caves, even when taming creatures. Anytime that you think you might die. Sleeping bags can be unlocked at level 4. Simple beds can be unlocked at level 7. Another extra tip for the sleeping bags that I like to use. A lot of people don't do this, but I like to. When gathering cement and paste from beaver dams, I always stick a few sleeping bags around the edges of the lake. Open the dams, grab as much cement paste as you can, and of course beavers will kill you very quickly. This is a very good tip for starting out. If you do come across a beaver dam and have no means of killing beavers, you can grab all the cement and paste, die, respawn again, and you can recover your body with no aggro from the beavers. You can do this over and over again until you're done farming your cementing paste. And don't forget to drop all the wood out, destroy the dam, because they will not put more cementing paste in. Beavers have to make more dams for you to get more cementing paste spawning in. Wooden spirals are great structures for early to mid game. For example, if you're getting pursued by a vicious creature, you can throw a few down and they will aggro on your spirals, which will get rid of the threat and give you some extra hide. They are mainly useful for taming, as you can throw a few down around a creature that you have knocked out. It will give them a temporary bit of protection from hostile creatures. Always keeping flyers on passive. As good of an idea as it sounds, having a flyer on neutral to defend itself, it is not the better option, as they will fly around like madmen. If they're stuck on passive, your best option if in trouble is to just mount them and fly off. And of course there is whistle command, so if you ever need to whistle them on passive or neutral, you can do that too. But for the most part, it is easier and safer to just have your flyers on passive. I don't know if anyone's ever seen a wyvern on neutral. Yes, not fun. Staying organised. ARK is a huge game with a massive amount of items, structures and creatures. Once you get a main base set up, name up all your refrigerators so you know where all your consumables are living. Same with vaults and anything like that. This is the way my base is laid out. I've got all my vaults labelled up so I know where my weapons are, ammo, armour, saddles, and separate blueprints for saddles, weapons and armour. ARK is a massive game and there's so much to know about it. It makes it 100 times easier when you know where your stuff actually is. You can kill aggressive creatures through walls. You can hit them and they can't hit you back. I utilise this quite a lot early game when you craft up a raft, go around the beaches and the hostile areas, bait some predators in. You can get easy hide and some easy levels just by doing this. Shoulder pets are extremely valuable for exploring on the Ark. A lot of them have unique abilities in themselves, which we won't get into right now because that'll take too long. But the majority of them, minus I believe the vulture, has weight reduction on items in their inventory while on your shoulder. They can help you carry a lot more items while exploring. Here we have a Jerboa and a Sinomacrops. I'm currently naked with nothing in my inventory minus the simple bullets that weigh 10 in mine. So if we stick them in the Jerboa, pick him up, you can see with the bullets in his inventory, they will only weigh 5 in mine. So it's half the weight. Now if we take the bullets out of the Jerboa and put them into the Sinomacrops, find they already weigh 5 in its inventory when not on your shoulder, and when you pick them up, they only weigh 2.5 in our inventory. So the Sinomacrops is the only creature that has a 75% weight reduction on items in their inventory once on your shoulder. A grappling hook and a crossbow. It has many uses, and just to name a few, they can attach to survivors, unconscious or dead, and they can be reeled in. They're great for navigating tough terrain, especially in caves, which can be near impossible to navigate through without a crossbow and grappling hook. You can attach them to all creatures, wild or tamed, which can be useful for moving smaller wild creatures if you want to tame them. Always kill off low level creatures when looking for high level creatures to tame. This is the best thing to do when you're struggling to find your high level creatures. It will give you a better chance of a high level to spawn in that area using Tame Ordering Groups. I mainly use this for boss fights or brute hunts if you're playing Genesis. If you go up to your creatures that you want to put in a group, hold to access the wheel for their inventory, modify ordering groups, then you want to add creature to group, add tame to group 1, and you do this on all the creatures that you want in group 1. I want these 3 Rexes in group 1 and the other 4 in group 2. We'll put these 4 in group 2. So if you go back onto your Dino's inventory, back onto ordering groups, you can see this one is part of group 2 and those other 3 are part of group 1. And how to command these guys and select only that group, you have to go into your own inventory. At the top you want to be going to tame groups. Tame Ordering Groups, you can see we got group 1, which is these 3 Rexes here, and then group 2, which is these 4 Rexes here. You can rename the group in the middle, and at the top the tick here on the left side will select your active group. So let's just say we want to select these 3 Rexes here. 3 Rexes selected. Anything else in the area will ignore our commands, just these 3 Rexes will abide by them. So as you can see, whistle attack target on the Doedicurus and they move in. Now if you want to switch to the other 4 Rexes, you can select group 2. I find it really useful for boss fights as you can basically split your forces up. You can get a group of Rexes behind the boss and a group of Rexes in front, creating a cheeky pinch. You can clear the active group here, which means they will all go back to being commanded together. You can heal wild carnivores that you're trying to tame by either feeding yourself to them or any wild creature corpses. For this to work, they need to still be aggroed and not already fleeing. Also, if you're feeding yourself to them, make sure you put all your stuff on your creature or in a storage box nearby and place a sleeping bag down. Using the net projectile with the harpoon launcher can make taming extremely easy. Of course, it's only available on certain maps, so you will have to learn it on those to be able to craft them. You can net a wide variety of creatures which will immobilize them for a whole minute, which does make taming a lot of creatures that you cannot bola a lot easier. Alpha predators cannot harvest a corpse. This can make them easy pickings for a kill. You can get pretty close, they still will not aggro on you, they will just focus on trying to eat that corpse, which they cannot do. You can attach torches to saddles. All you have to do is take off the creature's saddle, select the torch, and there you have it. How to fight wyverns while using a wyvern. From my personal experience, the Lightning Wyvern is the strongest out of all the wyverns, as it has the most range and the most damage. You can round up all the wild wyverns. You need to pull your analog stick all the way to the left or the right and start sprinting in a circle while using the lightning breath attack. For the most part, you will hit all the wyverns in the cluster and they die pretty quickly. And to deal with the lightning wyverns, the best way I've found to deal with these is to let it chase you, get enough range from you and the wyvern. As soon as it uses its breath attack, you want to stop sprinting and pull back on your left analog stick, which causes it to kind of pause in the air like a brake. Look up to use your bite attack. You can usually get about 3 or 4 bites in and then the wyvern will fly over you. Then you just sprint forward again and rinse and repeat. And if you use these 2 methods to kill them with the lightning wyvern, your wyvern shouldn't take any damage at all. But there are a couple of times when you're fighting the lightning wyverns that they can hit you. And just to point out, my wyvern was low on health at the end of the the clip because I leveled up its health. So don't worry, I didn't get hit that much. This is also a great way to farm Wyvern talons for doing the Manticore boss fight. The whip is one of the most useful tools in the game. It does have some unique qualities that you can use it for, including whipping a flyer that's hovering in the air to make it land, whipping up a load of packages that are popcorn on the floor, which of course makes the popcorn tip from earlier a lot easier to do, and you can whip over encumbered creatures, which will make them move a bit further forward. Of course, it has a lot more use for PvP, whipping weapons out of players' hands or dismounting them from creatures, to name the most popular. Rare flowers can be used to tame passive flea creatures, so when your survivor consumes a rare flower, you will be given the rare flower effect for 10 seconds. Everything in the area will become aggressive to you, and if you want to, you can eat a bunch of them to stack the effect. As you can see in the video clip, this Tapajara was fleeing from me, and once I consumed the rare flower, it turned around and started chasing me. Therefore, I could lead it into the trap and safely trank it out. Tech creatures are a different type of variant of creature that will spawn in the wild, and they can be extremely valuable to your tribe if you manage to tame a load of them. Of course, these creatures will spawn up to level 180, so if you're looking for stronger creatures to tame, if you do manage to spot a high level in the wild, it is definitely a good idea to tame one. However, if you're looking to get rich, all you need is one male and a bunch of females, doesn't matter what level they are. Have them in your base mating, hatch a load of babies, let them fully grow up. It is time to start the slaughter, sadly, and the best method to harvest them is by using a chainsaw, which includes oil, element dust, scrap metal, which is basically raw metal, and electronics. I do already have a detailed guide showcasing which tech creatures are best for breeding as babies and which drop the most resources. I will stick a link in the description of the video. Starve taming. This is probably the safest and best method of taming creatures. It can reduce the risk of losing resources and will reduce the workload for you, as it is mostly a beneficial technique when taming carnivores on prime meat. With starve taming, once the creature is knocked out, you simply wait a while for the food to go down and just keep it knocked out with narcotics before feeding it. Once the creature is hungry enough to eat all the food that you want to tame it with, you then begin feeding it. Then they'll pretty much eat it all in one go and tame up. And if you're confused and need any info on how to use starve taming, you can download the Dododex taming calculator. This is a great app for ARK. I will stick a link in the description of the video. Farming blueprints is a very important part of ARK. Blueprints are similar to engrams, however you do not have to spend engram points to use them. You'll find them in supply crates, deep sea loot crates, cave loot crates, and a variety of different ways depending on the map you are playing. Finding stronger blueprints will enable you to craft the best gear, weapons, armor, and saddles in the game, which is key to a lot of endgame scenarios. And this leads us on perfectly to the crafting skill stat. Crafting skill is a measure of how fast you can craft items and can boost the quality of creative recipes and blueprints at mid to end game. Once you have a load of blueprints and you want to make better quality blueprints, create yourself a Mindwipe tonic. The Mindwipe tonic is a brew that you can consume that will respec all of your skill points and give back all your engram points. Quite expensive to make, so they're pretty much mid to end game stuff. And once you have all the materials in your crafter device, you consume the Mindwipe, pump all of your points into crafting skill. For example, here we have the beaver. We're going to craft some flak armor and just show you how much boost you can get on the armor rating and durability. We'll craft some of the trousers as it's the highest tier of blueprint we have. Durability 474 and armor rating 303. So once we craft these, you'll find that we will get a random quality of crafting skill bonus, and all the stats on the armor will go up. So if we take the legs and compare them to the blueprint, you can see armor rating is massively increased on this one. We got a 50.1% bonus for crafting skill. Durability's gone up by almost 200, and that is how you can craft the best quality of blueprints possible. And to conclude the video, I'm going to throw in a cheeky little PvP tip that I used to use back in the day, which is going to be using a spyglass to line up shots when using a weapon that has massive weapon sway. Long neck rifle is a perfect example of this. When you have your scope attachment equipped, the weapon sway is insanely bad. It's nearly impossible to hit shots from a distance, even if the target is stationary. It's a great PvP tip if you catch someone off guard where they're looking at the dino's inventory or something. You can line up your shot with your spyglass, instantly equip your long neck rifle, fire a shot without zooming in, and it will hit that target with pinpoint accuracy. And that is also going to be the end of the video. I hope it was helpful to you all. I'll catch you all in the next one, which will probably be my 100 days video, which I've nearly finished editing. Take care, goodbye.